A very warm welcome back. Former central banker Mark Carney is replacing Justin Trudeau as Canada's new Prime Minister. The 59-year-old economist was chosen by Canada's ruling Liberal Party to be its new head and will become the country's leader. He now has to navigate Canada through a trade war with U.S. President Donald Trump, which he addressed in his victory speech.
There's someone who's trying to weaken our economy. Yeah, Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living.
Carney's previously steered Canada's central bank through the 2008 global financial crisis and then the Bank of England through Brexit. And with Canada urging its citizens to vacation elsewhere, choose Canada, and a strong dollar making U.S. trips pricier, key destinations may feel the impact. Here to help us break down how tariffs in general may hurt the U.S. travel industry is Anthony Chan, the former chief economist at JPMorgan Chase. Anthony, as always, thanks for coming on with us.
Good to be with you, Karina.
So Canada is the biggest source of international visitors to the U.S., about 20 million visits in 2024, generating over $20 billion in spending and supporting nearly 150,000 American jobs. What happens to the U.S. economy if Canadians choose Canada over the U.S. for holidays, as Justin Trudeau has suggested?
I think the results are clear, and that is you're going to have less of those tourists coming over. We're already starting to see that, less of them coming. So a 10% drop is obviously going to have a huge impact. $2 billion. You're going to have hotels with extra rooms. You're going to have the leisure and hospitality sector suffering. So it's going to have an impact. And by the way, some of that impact is occurring also because of a change in sentiment, negative sentiment towards Americans because of these tariffs.
Yeah, I just came back from Hong Kong and everyone was asking, what is going on with U.S. policy? Everyone is interested to see, what is happening. But tariffs could also end up strengthening the greenback, and that could also hurt U.S. holiday destinations. Which U.S. cities will see the biggest impact, do you think? And what could the economic impact be on the U.S. as a whole? Do you think a recession is more likely?
I think that if we get a recession, it's not just because of a stronger dollar or just because of what's going on with Canada. But remember, these tariffs are sort of extended to other countries also. And so to the extent that we have a tariff war, a recession is possible. All you got to do is go back to the smooth Hawley Act in the 1930s, and you saw that it exacerbated economic conditions and the recession turned into a depression. So yes, we can easily see a recession if this trade war were to get out of control. So it is something that is of utmost concern, especially as it starts to reduce economic activity, starts to reduce employment. All those are the catalysts that you would look for to basically identify an impending or an imminent recession.
And Anthony, which holiday destinations do you think have the most to gain if countries choose to not visit the U.S., in your opinion?
Well, I think that right now you're going to see those countries that are not being as hostile. So Europe, Latin America, all those areas. And that means that many of our national parks in Utah, in Florida, or even Niagara Falls, all these areas are going to be suffering while other countries will be benefiting. And of course, that means that some of our businesses will probably try to recruit people from other countries. But then when we start to talk about reciprocal tariffs, it basically raises the number of countries that are also going to have hostile feelings towards Americans.
This will obviously impact visitors coming to the U.S. potentially, but what about people who need to travel here for business? Do you think there will be that much of an impact? Obviously, if they've got work that needs to be done and they need to travel, they shouldn't be that badly impacted.
Well, there will be some negative impacts, Karina, because to the extent that a lot of the parts for airlines are imported, they're going to be tariffed. That means that the cost of repairing these airplanes are going to go up. The cost of servicing these airplanes are going to go up. That means these airline tickets go up. On top of the fact, if they're coming from other countries, they may not want to pay those higher fares, or to the extent that there are conferences in the United States. Maybe if there's an anti-American sentiment, those conferences will be held outside the United States. So again, this can easily snowball into something that's not so positive for the U.S. economy.
And more broadly speaking, the U.S. is set to host several prominent sporting events, including the FIFA World Cup, in just about 15 months from now. Do you think these tariffs will impact those sports buffs and tourist plans to come? And what could be the hit from lost revenue in that case?
I think the hit to revenue will be enormous. But the thing to keep in mind, Karina, before we panic too much, is that these tariffs may be going into effect, but we still don't know how long they will last. So if they're short run, all these negative scenarios that we're talking about will not really come to fruition. But if they do come to fruition, whether it be sports opportunities, whether it be business opportunities, whether it be tourism opportunities, all those would be moving in the negative direction. So it will not be a good thing for the U.S. economy.
And Anthony, you did touch on this. You said businesses that rely on international visitors like hotels and restaurants, they could take a hit. So how are they adapting to these changes now? What should they be doing?
That's a good question, Karina. What we're hearing now from restaurants and hotels is that they're trying very hard to reduce their operating costs. They're using more technology to get there, so using less workers. And they're also switching, believe it or not, to cheaper food substitutes in the menus for restaurants and things like that. And also trying to attract residents from countries that are not negatively impacted as of yet with these tariffs, in order to replace the countries that are not wanting to come to the United States.
This could definitely be an opportunity for other countries to gain some recognition, especially for people hoping to visit the U.S. All right, Anthony Chan, thank you so much for your perspective.
My pleasure.